It's the first weekend in April, Final Four weekend, the final 4 weeks before the NFL draft. What's the Cowboys' bigger need, O-line or D-line? And which players need to step up? We discuss next on The Blitz, your Dallas Cowboys report.
Pops out to the right, breaks a tackle. They blitz it. Prescott throws it down the right side for Lamb. Caught it! Back to throw, rush, sacked by Parsons. Heaves it deep down the left side for Gallup. He's got it. Touchdown!
And it is time for the Blitz from inside the studios here at the Star in Frisco. Bill Jones along with Mickey Spagnola, who is sitting in this week for the vacationing Kyle Yeomans. Or Kyle Yeomans, if he's not vacationing, he's preparing for the NFL draft. As everybody here at the Star is, it is full speed ahead as it is the run up to the draft, which occurs first round on April 28th. Great to have you along. And even though the Cowboys haven't done all that much in free agency, is at least the outside opinion, there are things going on behind the scenes.
No, absolutely. And the Cowboys have been adding some more veteran-type guys to their roster, filling in some holes so they don't get to the draft and have to say, okay, I got to have one of these guys, or I got to have this position. They're filling in slowly but surely so they prepare for the draft, as they like to say, keep it pure.
All right, and this past week, of course, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, they were in Palm Beach, Florida for the NFL owners meetings. And let's kick off the show this week by getting a report from Dave Hellman from Florida.
Thanks, guys. Well, I got to say, this is about as brief an NFL owners meetings as I can remember. They actually conclude the meetings early this year. There just wasn't that much stuff on the docket. The NFL, of course, approved the new postseason overtime rule. Thanks to that fantastic Chiefs-Bills game, they are going to allow each team to have a possession in postseason overtime games. That won't apply to the regular season, postseason only. So basically, we won't be robbed of a chance to see Josh Allen answer Patrick Mahomes next year. As far as the Cowboys, though, I mean, it's gorgeous here, don't get me wrong, but there's not a whole lot to say. The real work of this offseason is going on back with y'all in DFW. Mike McCarthy didn't even make the trip. Again, the short agenda led him to say, you know what, I'm just going to focus on this 2022 NFL draft. He, Dan Quinn, and Will McClay visiting pro days, checking out this loaded NFL draft class. That's the sense I get from talking to Jerry and Stephen Jones here in Palm Beach. They are focused on this draft class. Doesn't mean that we won't see some free agency additions. I think the Cowboys would like to add some depth to their offensive line. I think they definitely want a kicker. I think we'll see that added to the roster at some point here in the next few weeks. But for the most part, again, the numbers we're hearing here is the Cowboys think there are as many as 220, 225 draftable players in this draft class because of all of the COVID seniors, the guys who had extra year of eligibility. There are just more good players available in this draft. And with 9 picks, the Cowboys want to do their due diligence. They are trying to hit as many home runs as possible. They will tell you, you saw the results of it last year. You get a guy like Micah Parsons, Oso Digizua, and Chauncey Golston, guys that can come in and contribute right away. They're trying to do it again this year, and that's what the focus is. So look, I'm not complaining about a trip to the beach, but really the work of this Cowboys organization right now is in the war room prepping for this draft. We'll see if it pays dividends for him here coming up in April with the draft slated to start on April 28th. Back to y'all.
So it appears that Kyle Yeomans wasn't the only one vacationing this week. As Dave Hellman, there wasn't a whole lot going on at the owners' meetings there in Florida, but they did fix overtime. Or are you of the opinion they fixed overtime?
They made it better, absolutely, Bill. And you know, as we were talking last week, I said, just do whatever you can to just play football. Don't come up with some gimmick 2-minute drill, a 2-point conversion, come up with something where you're going to place the ball, and if you convert, you get to keep going. If you don't, the other team gets the ball. So this is more pure football. They're going to play football. And now the question's going to be, if you win the toss, are you kicking or are you going to receive? Because you got to know what the other team's going to do.
So you'd be in favor of kicking.
I would be in favor
you want the ball
of kicking,
second.
but secondly, though, at least if they go for 2, then I can go for 2 to match it, right? If we both score. But again, if we both score or we neither score, then who I kicked off, then they're going to get the next chance to go for it.
Mickey, I'm already getting tired here just listening to the options as far as overtime is concerned. All right, we try to clear things up as far as this Cowboys roster is concerned when we come back here on the Blitz, and what players need to step up in 2022 when we come back.
The Blitz is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, and by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. This segment is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Blitz. Bill Jones along with Mickey Spagnola as we take a look at what the Cowboys have done so far this offseason. And there's been some addition by subtraction in the opinion of some. There's been some consternation out there that, okay, they haven't done that much as far as free agency, as far as outside free agents on the defensive side of the football. A signing of Dante Fowler hasn't done much for a lot of people out there. So my question to you, what guys on the current roster on the defensive side of the football, Mickey, need to step up this year?
Well, I've got a list here, Bill, and it's kind of getting long because they need some guys that they've maybe drafted or brought in as free agents that really need to step to the forefront. The first one that comes to mind for me is Jabril Cox, a 4th-round pick last year in the draft, and tore his ACL about halfway through the season. They need help at linebacker. He is a linebacker, kind of a move linebacker. So I think he needs to really come back, get back from that ACL, and be able to help out, especially in nickel situations. Could pair him with Micah Parsons, and he would take the place of Keanu O'Neal.
And, okay, I'll throw a guy out there. There's not necessarily a starting position open at cornerback on this team, but you got Kelvin Joseph, who was a 2nd-round draft pick last year. You would like to see your 2nd-round draft pick in his 2nd year get on the field more.
Now, one of the priorities they made in free agency is bringing back Dorrance Armstrong. So they lost Randy Gregory. Dorrance Armstrong has always been this guy. You know, he was kind of the pet cat for owner Jerry Jones. Every time you'd ask Jerry Jones about a defensive lineman, he would mention Dorrance Armstrong. Well, this is Dorrance Armstrong going to be his 5th year. It's going to be his first chance to earn a starting job. If he can do that, they'll qualify keeping him on a 2-year deal.
All right, on the offensive side of the football, the only outside free agent signed, James Washington, a wide receiver. So what guys on the current roster who maybe did not have the opportunity earlier in their career to step up need to step up now?
Well, I got a bunch of guys, especially on that offensive line. The reason why they felt comfortable letting Lael Collins go was they feel like Terrence Steele is ready to be a full-time starter at right tackle. So now he's got to take advantage of his opportunity. Another guy that kind of faded to the background last year was a 4th-round pick, Josh Ball, offensive tackle. He ended up basically spending the entire year on injured reserve. They need him to show why they picked him in the 4th round. He's a guy that at least challenged for the backup swing tackle spot, Bill, that they don't have filled. And then another guy in his 4th year, it's time, Conor Mcgovern. Are you going to step up? There's a vacant left guard spot. He played for a few games there. He started in place of Connor Williams. They weren't happy with his production. Connor Williams returned, but they lost him in free agency. So McGovern now's got an opportunity to seize that spot but I bet he's going to face some competition somewhere along the line.
Okay, so what about at the receiver position, whether it's wide receiver or tight end? People forget Blake Jarwin was a key part of this team, no longer on the roster, and of course Amari Cooper leaving. Any of the young guys that need to step up there?
Well, you mentioned tight end, so Sean McEwen, they kind of liked him. He didn't get that much playing time, but now he's got an opportunity. If you think about it, that word opportunity is one that Mike McCarthy's been throwing out this entire offseason. And then at wide receiver, Simi Fehoko. He barely played last year. Now he's got an opportunity, especially with Gallup probably missing the first couple games. They need a third, fourth wide receiver. He's got an opportunity.
Well, and an opportunity for James Washington, the guy they signed in free agency as well, who was a second-round draft pick, did not play up to that with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe coming back home to Texas, he will be able to do that. All right, up next here on the Blitz, what is the bigger need on this Cowboys team when it comes draft day on April 28th?
This segment was brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys.
What are your biggest needs for the draft? I think we need to pick good football players that help us win and make plays. I mean, obviously, we did a good job with that with Micah last year. I mean, you can't think that's going to happen. Right. Year in and year out, but you can, you have some really good football players, but we feel good about our football team, but obviously we're going to be looking for some really good football players. We got 9 picks, we got 4 5s, and, we got to make, those early picks, we're going to have some great opportunities. This draft is very deep, lots of numbers in this draft, and it's a good time to, have 9 picks.
Okay, it's the great debate every year. What do the Cowboys do in the draft? What's the bigger needs on this team? Cowboys in the past have liked to fill a lot of positions in free agency, trying to do that again this year where you don't have to draft for need, but there are positions of need obviously across the board on this team. So let's throw this out at you. Let's just look at offensive line versus defensive line, and whether you're looking at first round, second round, third round, whatever it might be, what, Mickey, do you think is the bigger need on this team? Is it O-line or is it D-line, meaning edge rusher versus an offensive tackle who might be able to play guard?
I think I'm going with the edge rusher. The Cowboys need a top defensive end to add to this team. Yeah, they signed back Dorrance Armstrong. It's only a 2-year deal. They signed Dante Fowler Jr. in free agency. It's only a 1-year deal. They need to fill that spot of Randy Gregory on the right side. And to me, in this first round, there's some top quality defensive ends. I can find my offensive linemen in the second round, but these defensive ends go off the board really quickly. And I think that spot can make a bigger difference on your team than an offensive lineman. So I'm saying with the proliferation of defensive ends graded in the first round, I want one of those guys. I think they can make a bigger impact. And the other thing Stephen Jones said at the owners' meeting is it's harder to project offensive linemen from college into the NFL because of how the college game is played. Well,
and it's, especially at the offensive tackle position, the pass protection, they don't run the football as much in the traditional way that the NFL does. It's interesting when you look at you can separate it really, I think, between first round and second and third round, because I think what you really want to do in that first round is, if there's an edge rusher, great, but that offensive tackle, you look at what Tyron Smith, the injury issues he's gone through in his career, and now you've got a former college free agent starting at right tackle. And so you would love if there's a tackle that slides to you at 24 who can first play guard and then transition to tackle in his second or third year in the league, great. But there's also a need on this team for an interior offensive lineman, and there are opportunities to draft an offensive guard or a center even at 24. So as you look at the interior of the defensive line versus the interior of the offensive line, what is the greater need there, do you think?
Well, I think then it would be the interior of the offensive line. I think they got guys to handle the interior of the defensive line. And if it's an interior person on the offensive line, then it has to be versatile. Can I play guard and center, center and guard, or can I play guard and tackle? I think that's what they have to look for. You can find those guys in the second or third round.
I've got a guy, and Britt Johnson has a guy that you need to look at, Mickey, from the University of Oklahoma, coming up here next, who you might change your mind once you get a glimpse at this guy. We continue our look ahead to the National Football League draft, which starts on April 28th. Profile one of the key players the Cowboys may be looking at, a Senior Bowl MVP, and Britt Johnson has more.
Thanks so much, Bill. Britt Johnson here. The Dallas Cowboys have spent the last few years building their defensive line on day 2 and day 3 of the NFL draft, with picks like Osa Odigizua, Quentin Bohanna, and Neville Gallimore. This year, the Cowboys could get lucky with a standout pick like Perrion Winfrey, who was named MVP of this year's Senior Bowl, where he secured 2 sacks.
Right. Honestly, everybody thought that I was going to run 5 flat, 5-1. So I guess showing them that I was able to run 4.8 while also pulling my hamstring, I'd probably say that was probably big for me. But not only that, I would say going to the Senior Bowl and just dominating all my competition and just showing them the player that I could be and would be.
While at Oklahoma, Winfrey played a 0 technique, but NFL teams have been mostly looking at him to play a 3 technique and defensive end to put him in position to be a pass rusher. Perrion Winfrey is more than excited about this opportunity.
I played defensive end my whole high school career, and I played 3 technique at my junior college. Coming here was the first time that I actually played the nose tackle position 24/7. I feel great.
From community college to a starter at Oklahoma to the NFL draft, defensive tackle Perrion Winfrey could be making his next stop here in Dallas. Back to you guys.
All right, Mickey, you seem to think that the Cowboys can't use a 3 technique. What about a guy that hits players like that guy did?
I don't know who yelled "ooh" more, the guy that got hit or me watching that. Yeah, they could use a guy with that versatility and ability to run. My goodness. When we were watching this, I asked Bill, I said, no, that 8 guy, is that a linebacker?
Nope, he's a 3. He can play defensive end, he can play defensive tackle, and not only was he the Senior Bowl MVP in the game, but he impressed the scouts throughout the week during practice there. I'm just sitting there wondering, how come I didn't see that often when I was watching my Sooners play?
I was going to ask you, how did they ever lose a game with that guy on
right.
defense?
I thought they didn't play defense at Oklahoma. Anyway, that will change what your needs, okay? You see a guy like that, and maybe you say, okay, we can use that. We might be able to use that in this league. All right, when we come back in just a moment, we got an idea of one team the Cowboys might be playing in the preseason next.
The Blitz was brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, and by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
Won't be long and the Cowboys' schedule will be out. Of course, 17-game regular season, only 3 preseason games. Got a little tip this past week that the Cowboys are talking to the Chargers about perhaps having some joint practices out in California in training camp, which usually means that the Cowboys could be playing that team in a preseason game. So a little game out in Los Angeles against the Chargers, perhaps. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. No sense making 2 2-hour bus trips if you have to go play them for a preseason game. So you go in early, you have a practice, and then play the game next day or Saturday.
All right, and now it's less than 4 months away from the start of training camp, less than 4 weeks away from the NFL draft. And one other little note from this past week at the owners' meeting that Mickey's ears perked up when he heard this. Locker room access, might there be media in the locker room this year?
Sounds like we're going back to the old days, just 2-3 years ago, right? Locker rooms around the NFL have been closed due to COVID precautions, and it extended from 2020 season to the 2021 season. Everything was Zoomed interviews, or you did interviews from afar. but we were not. The media was not allowed into the locker rooms, not for practices, not for games.
Tell me how the fans benefit from media access in the locker room.
You know what? I think what we've had so far is all shared information. Everybody got the same interviews. You couldn't interview anybody on your own. So I think you'll get better insight into what's going on with the teams, and better just talking one-on-one with guys and ask your own questions. I just think you'll get more from the locker room interviews than we've had over the last 2 years.
Great insight here. Also, the draft guide is out. Go to DallasCowboys.com.